Hello, everyone. In today's episode of Kast, my guest is Ben Cureton, also known as Tragic Online, who is the principal gameplay designer for Remnant 2. However, beyond his role as a developer, he also plays a lot of video games, and in today's podcast, we're not exclusively talking about Remnant 2. We already have 2 episodes dedicated to Remnant 2, and we're looking at a wide variety of topics, which are time-stamped in the chapters for your convenience. We do still talk about the latest Remnant 2 DLC near the end, but unfortunately, we ran out of time before I got to go over every single topic I wanted. I'm sorry, but it's just too easy to lose track of time when talking with Ben. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you do, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, as that really helps out the channel, especially in podcast episodes, which naturally tend to have lower retention. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the show. Shields up, Ironbreakers. Welcome back to another episode of Kast. Today we have special guest Ben Cureton from Gunfire Games. He is I believe that your title was Principal Gameplay Designer. I forget what it was because it's not super common.
Yeah, I mean, I'm principal designer on charge of, progression and gearing and stuff, and lead gameplay designer and things like that. So it's all just one thing, whatever you call me.
All things gameplay when it comes to Remnant 2. We've had a couple of discussions previously, and there's a lot of stuff happening in the industry right now, so I wanted to bring you in as someone who's kind of like on the inside to talk about those and naturally talk about the recent DLC that you guys released for Remnant 2 as well. So one of the first things that I got to ask you is, like, how hard was it for you guys to find, like, a release window for the Forgotten Kingdom DLC?
I mean, it's tricky, obviously, because there's just a lot of good games coming out all of the time, right? We had that same issue with the release of the game, right? We released our game, and then a couple weeks later, it's like, oh, by the way, a little small game called Baldur's Gate is coming out. I don't know if you heard of it, but enjoy, right? Like, and of course, we all played it as well. But it's just one of those things where I'm not involved in this, but I'm sure the marketing team, the bosses of the studio, and the producers and all that stuff, they say, well, this looks pretty good, let's go for it. And then we aim for it and we go for it. Sometimes there's a little bit of a shifting, of course, before we announce, where we go, ooh, this is looking crazy because this massive game got pushed up, or this game is getting pushed back, or whatever. I don't really know. I would assume that's how I would do it, but look, it's hard. It's rough because there's just so many good games coming out.
I definitely remember when Remnant 2 came out. It was shortly after I was done with Diablo 4. As a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why I didn't really commit to Season 1 on Diablo 4. It's like, no, there's this other game coming out that I want to go play. So I'm not going to go full ham on this because I want to check out Remnant 2. So it's been very hard both during 2023 and 2024 to just release anything, I feel like, because there's always banger games coming out. Just to give an idea, before your DLC came out, the second DLC for Final Fantasy 16 came out, and after your actually also before your DLC came out, No Rest for the Wicked went into early access. Not sure if you checked that one out.
I have, of course. You know me.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we play the same games. That was another thing too. But after your DLC came out, 3 days after the DLC came out, Stellar Blade released, kind of like a small indie game. Not sure if you've heard of it.
Yo, I've definitely heard of that one. I haven't. I've played it. I haven't finished it. But I mean, I'm just adjusting my game by the way. So
yeah, it's all good.
So it doesn't go. But yeah, so it's just nonstop games. Like I said, this year, last year. And I'll be honest, it's distracting, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like they announced No Rest, and I looked at it and I thought, okay, well, I loved both Ori's. Art team is incredible. I love the games. Moon Studio, let's see what they do. And as soon as it came out, I jumped on it and I started playing it. I probably played it 25, 30 hours at this point. And it's EA, it's EA, it's early access. It's only one chapter. Have you gone through it? Have you played it?
Yeah. I played it all the way.
So I went all the way through, and it's a very interesting game because I tell people at work and people that have asked me what I think about it, and I say, it is a game to me that's that's a 9.5 or higher in potential. Like I can see the potential. And what do I know? I'm not a reviewer, but I look at it and I go, man, if they can nail this, it could be up there, right? But it's early access, and they've said themselves they couldn't release this game without early access. They couldn't do it without the fan feedback, and so a lot of the things that the community is saying about the game, they're like, we love this and we want to love this, but please fix these XYZ things. And I'm sitting in playing, going, yeah, I agree with all of that. I hope they fix all of those things. And then they had a patch like a week later where they fixed like a lot of those things, or started to address them, like early housing or durability, or just general things like that. And I was like, okay, I think they're going to be on the right track to a big one.
I was extremely impressed by this team because I played the game, I live streamed it, and then I usually do like a first impressions type video, something like that. And I make my video talking about it, and I was like, listen, this game is amazing, but the performance is just too seriously bad. Like I'm having serious performance issues, and I'm on AMD, so obviously it's expected. Okay. I'm paying that AMD tax a little bit. And interestingly enough, just to give you an idea of how active this team is, somebody in my comment section is like, hey, I work for the render people at Moon Studios, and it's like, it'd be great if you could give me more details about the problems you're having. I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm not even that big of a creator, right? I'm just like, hey, I like this game. Let's play. Let's talk about it. And so they're in there. And interestingly enough, I actually had a problem because I had blackouts shortly before the game came out. And because of those blackouts, my RAM clock got messed up. And because of the performance issues that I was having in the game, I was able to, wait a minute, my RAM clock, somebody also posted a comment saying like, oh man, there's a lot of people that have all these killer rigs, but their RAM clocks are all messed up. And I was like, that's insane that this setup.
That is crazy.
So I ended up fixing that, but there was still like a little bit of performance issue, but they fixed a lot of that. And the team was like, throughout a weekend, they were going crazy with updates and reaching out to everybody. And there were developers reaching out to me on Twitter also, hey, how's your performance now? And I was like, this is insane. Like these guys are super active and just completely on top of it. The biggest thing they need to fix for me right now is the inventory. Inventory is still.
Oh yeah.
That is rough.
It's interesting going back to the performance stuff. Like performance is, if you make a good game, let's just assume we're talking about you made a decent, solid, really good game. Whatever we're talking about.
No rest for the wicked is good. Is good.
Of course. Absolutely. Performance is the biggest hit these days to your score.
Yep.
Right. For anything. It hit us a little bit.
Even Remnant 2 got hit from performance.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It hit us. It's hitting them, and they're in early access, so it's going to hit them a little bit different because they're going to hopefully enjoy a 1.0 release, right? When they officially release it, and they can have all that stuff taken care of it, and that's awesome. It's really good in this day and age, because I think when you're in early access, you have a good price point. I think they're $40, $39.
I think
or
it was
something
40
like
bones,
that. Yeah. So if you have you kind of have the good price point, you have good communication. Obviously, a good game is important. It's probably the most important thing when you're talking about like I'm trying to sell a game. Make sure it's a good game because people will forgive other things, but the biggest hit is assuming it's a good game is going to be performance. So, and that's something that we've tried to work on too. We have our guys that will contact. We have people in our friends and family server, and some of them don't have any followers. Some of them have a really low amount of followers, like a couple thousand, and we're still asking them, hey, what's your rig? What's your setup? Oh, do you have the dreaded, 13900, 4900 combo, which just seems to hurt some people, like Cowboy, right? Like he had that combo, and it did, and certain games just have issues, and then you find out, okay, well, is that us? Is that a combination of hardware configuration of the way it works? Is it a certain version of a chip that they're using? And you go on the wild, well, not me, the hardware, the software guys, they go hardcore and they look for every little thing. And we bought rigs to match people's specs. We said, what's your spec? What do you have? And then we went out and bought it and put it together. And you know what I mean? Like because you think about it, like you buy a top end machine at any point in time, a relatively top end enthusiast, let's say enthusiast system is going to be $4,000 to $5,000, right? Give or take. But like using that to try to diagnose some issues is going to save you a lot more on the back end. Could be a point, could be 2 points on your score. If you know what I mean? If you can get that stuff fixed, it's clearly worth it. Plus, you want the game to have good performance. So
yeah, of course.
I totally appreciate what they're doing too.
You want to have people enjoy the product. I think it makes sense.
Yep.
But yeah,
and it's funny. It's funny because I'm not one of the people like I love frames. I'm from the fighting game community. I'm from first person shooter community way back in the day. I love frames. Everything is in frames for me, right? And I work on combat as well. But like, if I can get a game to run at, and I know this sounds almost probably even pretentious now, but I'm like, if I can get a solid 120, you know what I mean? Or even 90 in some cases. Like I think with no rest, I was getting close to 90. I'm like, I'm all right. I'm not gonna ding a game for performance. If this game is fun and I'm getting a smooth 90, I'd rather get a smooth 90 than go between 40, 150, 40, 150. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is terrible. Yeah, the pacing
trust me,
goes
I would.
to crap.
Yeah, and trust me, I would love to run a game at like Apex Legends frame rates or Valorant frame rate of.
What GPU do you have on your system? Just out of curiosity.
On this system, I have a 12900. Oh, sorry, GPU. I've got a 3090 Ti. Paired with a 12900K. At the time, it was the best. Like when I bought it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy the big dog machine.
You can't even play Hellblade 2 on like
on Potato.
No, not on Potato, but like I think they have the thing where it's at 1440p or whatever. They need like a 4070 or something for that. And I was like,
I should be all right. I mean, I don't use. Well, it's interesting because, like I said, I bought it when it was at its peak. That was the highest. The only thing I could have done better at the time really was get like the extreme version.
That was probably
of
during the Bitcoin era, the bit mining era too. That was expensive as crap.
Me, it's still bad trying to get a 4090, and I've thought about getting it, but I got it, and then 4 months later, I think it was 5 months later, they're like, okay, 4090's out and the 13900's out. But if you think about it, the 3090 already runs hot. It's a hot GPU. Yeah. And the processor, the 12900, already runs pretty hot.
I remember there was a batch of those that like got melted with New World. Do you remember that?
Yeah, there was. It was like something with the plug on the
It was funny to me because people were like, "Oh, the problem is New World. 100% New World is frying GPUs." And I'm like, "No. If your super expensive piece of hardware is exploding because of a video game, there's a problem with your super expensive piece of hardware."
Yeah, and it's funny because I look at this and I go, "Okay, I love performance, of course, and I would love to set up a 4090 and a 14900K." And then I look at, but I also love small form factor. So there's a small form factor tax where everything is more expensive. There's the 4090 tax, which is like, they're like $2,000 now, right?
Yeah, I mean, they were $2,000 when I was trying to set up my new computer, and I was like, man, screw you guys. I'm going Team Red. I bought like a 7900 XTX for like less than half the price.
Oh, yeah.
Less than half the price.
I mean, for gaming, and
I was
for
like, you
gaming
guys are
too.
crazy.
Well, the only reason, not the only reason. Some of it is a weird, like, illogical, I guess, loyalty to NVIDIA because the one time I tried AMD stuff, like 20 years ago, I had an issue and it's stuck in my head. You know what I mean? Like I have friends at work, coworkers at work, and they're all on AMD and they're like, "Oh yeah, I run everything great and it's perfect." And I'm like, I don't trust it. But it's like 20 years ago, you know what I mean? And I actually thought about building a machine just to test it and mess with it. But it's interesting because like putting all that stuff together, one is obviously any good computer at this day and age is expensive. But also I wanted the video RAM because when I'm using my work computer and my gaming computer together, like I personally need that extra video RAM for Unreal, right? And we had machines.
Unreal is a resource hog, like
it's crazy. So we had machines at work that I think everybody had at the time 8 gigs of video RAM. This is a while back, a few years back, and I built one of my PCs with a 3090, not the Ti. They have the same amount of RAM, the Ti and the regular. And I was at home playing, using the editor. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. It's fast. Then I went to work with my 8 gigger, and I'm like, okay, this is horrible. This is the worst thing but I didn't notice it before because that's what the default was. So then I took my old 2080, which had 11 gigs I don't know why it had 11 gigs, but my old 2080, and took it to work. And I'm like, wow, this is incredible. I have 3 more, gigs of RAM. But then they updated everybody's cards to like 3070s at the time, but they were the 8 gig version. And I was like, and yes, you could play stuff, but when you went in the editor, you were like, oh man, this is bad. We've since moved work computers to 12 gigs. However, I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy a 3090 Ti for home, and I'm going to take my 3090 in with 24 gigs, and now both my computers at work can run Unreal Ed even better with the extra video RAM. Caching shaders and stuff is much faster. And they're like, hey, do you want a new card? I'm like, what is it? They're like, it's 12 gigs. I'm like, get away from me. I'm taking my...
Goddamn peasant.
Yeah, you peasant.
Friggin' peasant hardware. Don't talk to me.
Yeah. But they'll ask me, they're like, hey, do you have this issue? Do you have this issue? How's it running? And obviously we have much worse computers too.
Because I play Remnant 2 on PlayStation, I don't actually know what are the graphical features you guys have on PC. Do you guys have RTX?
Yeah. Oh wait, no. I don't think we have RTX. I think we have... Actually, that's the funny thing. So we have, is it the frame gen? Like, I'm not a technical guy.
DLSS.
I just know,
you guys have DLSS.
Yeah, DLSS. Yeah.
RTX is the lighting thing. Ray tracing.
That's right. I don't think we have that. I think we have the DLSS. I think we have all the versions of that XE, whatever, the Intel one, the AMD
DLSS and FSR, you guys have that.
Yeah, FSR, yeah. And then there's some other features. I'm telling you, I don't get involved with it. I'm just like, look, let me get to my 90 to 120 frames.
I was just curious about what are your thoughts on RTX, even maybe in other games if you've experimented with RTX, because I'm of the opinion that I always have this discussion with people because RTX usually has a massive tax when it comes to frames, and a lot of developers I feel like focus on RTX. Like, I even think, I'm not sure, so I can't claim this 100%, but I think that No Rest for the Wicked, when they first shipped, I think it had RTX enabled by default, and that might have been one of the situations that I ran into with my GPU, which again, I'm not 100% sure.
Interesting. Well, I will say I played it. I believe it was it Alan Wake 2? Did that have? I think that had.
I'm pretty sure that has RTX. Yes.
And man, I'll tell you, when I play a game with it, and I'm like, okay, something about this feels amazing. You know what I mean? I really love that game. It feels amazing. But depending on what I'm playing, let's say for example we're playing. You brought up Stellar Blade. I wouldn't know or care if it had it. I'd be like, look, I want 1,000,000 frames a second in this type of game. I do not care. Or let's say Wild's come out. Oh yeah, for sure. I want every. Well, it's only PlayStation, right? So I only play it on. I only play it on performance. I haven't played it that much, but I generally go for frames first, just to get a smooth 90 or 120 if I can. Obviously, if it's on a console, that is
you want
even
the 60,
more dependent. Yeah, but for PC games, I usually don't care about all the features. Sometimes I'll go in there and I'll be like, okay, I'm at 72 on whatever this game is, and I'll be like, shadows medium, shadows low. I'll do a couple of things and I'll be like, 90, I'm good for now. And then sometimes I'll play a game where I'm like, who optimized this? I'm getting 190 frames. I'm like, oh, this is my jam. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. When you get crazy frames, it's like, bro, this is what it's all about.
Yep,
which
exactly.
is I think that Stellar Blade, if I'm not mistaken, is actually using Unreal 4, so they took a bit of a safer approach.
Okay.
That's why I actually played it in balanced mode, which is they strike a balance with resolution and performance, and it was overall pretty good. Even though I did notice on some bosses that I was struggling to parry and dodge, I bumped it up the performance mode, and I was this feels a little bit better. I was able to get in there and work it out a little bit better, but yeah. But yeah, that was the one.
Especially in a game where you need pairing, right? You need the pairing and you need the frame perfect dodging and stuff. Absolutely.
And that team has actually improved on that day one patch. They improved on that, and they added New Game Plus and a bunch of other stuff. I think that game is one of the best games that is going to be coming out this year, despite all the controversy that's been surrounding it with the censorship of the suits and whatnot. And again, I don't know if it's censorship or developer design
who knows?
Or whatever. Yeah, unless somebody was to come out and actually say it, but even now, nobody really knows.
Well, I find it funny because obviously I wouldn't make any of those decisions on a game we worked on, so it doesn't. You know what I mean?
It doesn't.
But
affect you.
I look at it, it doesn't, and I look at like obviously Eve is like the new Bayonetta, the new,
Yeah.
very sexy, sultry, female that has the poses and does the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it. I understand what at least the chatter is about. But like when I see a suit and they go, show me the before and after, and I'm like, before, after, and I'm like, oh no, anyway. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't like, can I still parry? Can I still do cool combat? I don't care, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to make
Minimize
small
it.
somebody else's,
Yeah.
minimize it, whatever. Somebody else is like, I really love that suit, right? Or I love this, and I just go, I don't know, is the game fun and is it cool and am I doing cool stuff? I don't even care who I play as long as the game is fun. You know what I mean? I know there's always been controversy about that where like, I don't want to play this type of character. I don't want to play a female. I'm like, I play females all the time in my games. I don't, not every time, but a lot of times I tell my friends in Monster Hunter, I go back and forth. I'll play a male one, Monster Hunter. Next one I'll play female. Next one I'll play. I don't care. Is the game fun and does my character do cool stuff? I don't care.
But there are people that care about that, and I think it's a fair concern to have.
Sure.
If it was Sony that went in there and made them change things, I don't think that's cool. But if it was a design decision, then I'm like, hey, I'm all for it. They're the developers, they're the ones who know what they're doing. So it's like, to me, that is the thing. I don't know for sure if it was one thing or the other because there's more revealing outfits. And that's one of the things that I pointed out. There are outfits that are more revealing than this. And I understand there's like a sexual connotation to this one or whatever.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, to me, you would need to give me specific proof. No, this was the original developer intent.
Yeah.
They didn't want it to make the change. And then I'd be like, okay, then I'm against the change. Because otherwise, if the developers wanted to change it that way, I'd be like, then I support what they wanted to do. Because I'm all about what the developers want to do for the game. That's the way that I look at it.
And there's something also to think about, which I definitely empathize with. I understand is like, let's say I was really excited about the bunny outfit or whatever it is. Yeah. I really excited about I can't read what's the no armor one or the skin
suit
one or what?
It's called skin suit.
Maybe I was like, I love it for whatever reason. It doesn't matter.
But that one didn't get changed.
I know. I'm just saying, like, let's just say for argument's sake, I really loved those are the only ones I can remember. And the school outfit, I can't remember. But, and I bought something for that, and then they change it for me. Like I can empathize with that. I can understand where people could be upset because they felt like they got the bait and switch. But as you say, it's about, look, what the developer wants, and two, for me, I don't care that much, right? But I totally understand people that do.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the one that came out after your DLC. I played the whole DLC and all that, but I'm also curious on your thoughts on some of the other stuff that got released earlier this year. For starters, what have you been playing recently?
Balattro. I told you that before.
I've heard a lot of good things about that game. I have no idea what the game is about.
Well, just in a nutshell, it's a card game, and a traditional card game. And when I say traditional, I don't mean traditional at all. I simply mean,
so
ace, king,
is it
queen,
like
jack,
solitaire or
it's so when you first look at it, when I first saw screenshots of it, I'm like, why are people all pumped up about solitaire? You know what I mean? Like, why do they care about this? But you've played many a roguelikes, I'm sure, right? So it is.
I played a couple.
Just a couple. Okay. So it is a card game roguelike. The best way to describe it is, in a roguelike, you go out, you do some stuff, you unlock a little bit of quote unquote progression, whatever, you die, now you start over with some of that progression and you go forward. So Balattro is exactly like that, but you're unlocking things like jokers, you're unlocking things like vouchers, and they change the way the game plays. So at first, you pick a deck, and the deck says you have four hands to win, and 3 discards, as an example. You go out there and you go, here's my cards, I'm going to discard these cards. Ooh, I got 3 of a kind. You play 3 of a kind. But then maybe you unlock a joker that says multiply your score by this, or every ace you play gives you X amount of chip. You know what I mean? And it gets crazier and crazier. So at first you play a hand and it's like, you got 200 points. And then down the line, when you have all of these jokers and vouchers and cards and multipliers, you're like, oh, I just played 3 of a kind. I got 20 billion points. You know what I mean? It just gets out of hand. So it's, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm saying the score gets so big it can't even show on the score counter. It starts using letters, and it's just addictive because everybody knows cards. Everybody knows, ooh, a straight. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, cool. Or full house. And then you can start getting cards to say every time you play a full house, it's worth more. And you're like, ooh, I'm gonna get those. Now you're playing a full house, and it's like, oh, you one shot the boss. And the bosses, I think they're called the big blind, or small blind, big blind, and then whatever the final one is, I can't remember. I played 70 hours and I still can't remember.
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, I'm still playing
70 hours of a card
game.
Sounds insane.
I'm telling you. So and the boss will be like, all diamonds are debuffed, which means no matter what you have on the card, it's almost trash. It's basically trash. You can still use it for 3 of a kind, but you won't get points for it. And you're like, okay. Or you get one that says all your cards are dealt face down. You're like, what the fuck? What kind of boss is this? You know what I'm saying? Or every time you discard 1, you actually discard 3. And you're like, okay, you got to play really, really smart. So it's just a ridiculous card game. And it's so easy to pick up. And it's addictive because you start getting...
It's that one more run type of thing that we even get
100%
with Hades 2 and with
100%.
that type of vibe. But
exactly,
one of the biggest breakout hits was definitely Palworld. Did you get to play Palworld at all?
So I played it for almost no time. Okay, and I'll tell you why. I was playing Enshrouded because I was pumped for Enshrouded.
You played Enshrouded?
I played a ton of Enshrouded. So Palworld just came out of nowhere and then was like, everybody's playing Palworld. So then I bought it and I'm like, I'll get to it. All my friends everybody at work was playing it except me and Terra Mantis, old content creator now works at Gunfire. We're like, let's play Enshrouded. Not anti-Palworld. We were playing Enshrouded because who doesn't like a glider and who doesn't? It just looked cool.
I actually interviewed their creative director on the podcast not that long ago. Really chill dude. We got to talk about like their design philosophy and whatnot. That game is a ton of fun. I played a ton of it too.
I actually, and let me see, Enshrouded. How much did I play in Enshrouded? I rented a server, everything. Yeah, so I have about 50 hours in it. So we were going through the Shroud, doing everything. I mean, I'd love to talk to those guys because I'm like, hey, have you thought about this? But, it's their game. Let them do what they want. But so then, long story short, I loaded up Palworld because I'm like, I need my fix of somewhat similar gameplay type. Yeah. Somewhat similar. Like, I'm going to cut down a tree and I'm going to get a stone and I'm going to make a thing out of it. And then I'm going to go further into the game. And I went in and I made my Pokeball. I know it's not called Pokeball. I made my Pokeball and I threw it a sheet and I missed. And I'm like, and I closed it. and it wasn't because I had any problem with the game because guns, but I missed it. And I'm like, I got to make another one. But it was late at night when I played it. So I was like, I'll come back tomorrow. It was like 1:30 and I missed. And I'm like,
one of the most popular games of 2024. I missed my Pokeball.
I missed my first Pokeball. I missed my Pokeball. Anyway, and it's funny because I didn't make a decision like, I hate this game. I'm never playing it again. But it was like 1:30 and I'm like, okay, I'll do this tomorrow. Then I woke up and it's like, got to work on Remnant. And then I'm like, Steve's on. Let's play a little Enshrouded. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and it's still installed. It's still sitting there ready. My friend has a server. Like, I have no ill will against it, but I did miss my Pokeball, and I'm like, so
I made a server for me and a couple of friends of mine because the cool thing with that game is that they sell it to you, but they include the server stuff, so you can host your own server.
Okay.
Enshrouded does the same thing. They also let you host your own servers if that's what you want to do. And I was like, that's cool. So I put up like a server for a couple of weeks. I just had one computer. My streaming computer was running 24/7 to have our little Palworld server going. And the cool thing that I can tell you about Palworld is like, all of those, the way that I look at what those developers did is they looked at all of the survival games and they were like, okay, what's the most boring part of a survival game? And it's like, you cut down your first tree, that's fun. You cut down your first 10 trees, still fun. After number 10, you're like, I'm a little bit tired of cutting down trees. And that is essentially what they did. They just got the Pokemons to do all of the stuff. They do everything. The pals. So it's like, I need you to cut down 1,000 trees, and they'll just be there all day cutting trees. I need you to go do, mining and whatnot. As a matter of fact, you don't even need to assign them to it. They do it automatically. It's like it's part of their skills. So just like, I'm going to put a dude in my base that mines. He goes and he mines. That's
Didn't
kind
they
of
add
what
a
they
raid
did
too, or something like that, or they did the first
Yeah,
raid?
yeah, yeah.
Or
They
raid
have
boss?
there's enemies that show up and they raid your base. So they try to attack you and destroy stuff and whatnot. And it was actually really funny because I found this spot that was slightly elevated from the ground, and because they haven't properly coded the AI, they didn't know how to climb up to where my base was.
Oh, gotcha.
So my base was immune to raids.
Palworld is very interesting because I used to play Conan Exiles. I've played a lot of Conan Exiles.
Yeah.
And Conan Exiles had the feeling for me of playing that game for the first time. You start with nothing, right? You're in the little desert and you have to make your way with nothing. And the exploration in that game was great. Like the outcome of stuff and maybe the raid or the dungeons and the combats. I don't know if they've improved since then, but I love the fact of just trying to get across to the snow area and to find stuff and to right. And they had what are they called though? Oh man, I can't remember the name of you like bonk dudes over the head and you take them back to your base and they'll like do all the rudimentary tasks for you, like you put them on the grinding wheel.
That sounds like slavery to me. I don't know what
they have a different name. In fact, let me look it up.
Forced recruitment.
And exiles. What are slaves called? They have a PC thrall. They're called thralls.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So they're not slaves. They're
slaves.
thralls. Okay.
Definitely not slaves. Okay. But yeah, you get the thralls, but you do bonk them on the head, and you look. I'm not saying
force
it's
them into
politically
servitude,
correct.
but they're thralls.
Dude, but the funny thing is, Pokemon is. Not Pokemon. Palworld is
Palworld,
like.
Yeah,
but it's cute. It's cute. It's a cute guy, and he's cutting down trees for you, and it's a cute guy, and he's doing all these things. And then
you can also use the Pokeballs to capture like human NPCs.
I'm telling you, but they did a great job at, like you said, taking out all of the stuff that is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Right. In those type of games, because even in Enshrouded, for example, you start a new survival game. Like, did you play Enshrouded? Did you?
Yeah. I played a bunch of Enshrouded.
Oh yeah, you had put a server, right? Or no, was that Pokemon?
No, that was Palworld that I did the server on.
Either way.
But
so when you jump into one of those games for the first time, the world is endless. You don't know how big it is. You don't know what you're gonna do, and you're like, oh, where's my first tree? I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get that tree, and I got some wood. What can I make with this wood? You get a stone. What can I get? A shovel. What can I dig up with it? No rest for the wicked. Every one of those games has infinite possibility in the beginning, and it has that. They all have that feeling, and that game leads into, oh yeah, by the way, why don't you get yourself a nice little assault rifle? And you're like, what? You know what I'm saying? Or why don't you, and then no rest. You're like, okay, well, I got a bigger sword. I got a hammer. I got a gold hammer. Which is cool.
Yeah,
and we're talking guns.
Palworld, I had this giant bear that you could ride. You could get on top of him, like on his shoulders, and then he would pull out a rocket launcher, and it's just like blowing stuff up with it.
I mean, the funny thing about games like that is that they're just like, we just want to make a fun game. It's like
exactly.
It felt to me like they prioritized fun. And again, I'm not well versed in why do I keep saying Pokemon? Palworld
because
at all.
That's what it is.
All my friends have played, a lot of coworkers. I played it for a solid 7 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Failed your Pokeball? I can't believe you would fail it like that.
I missed one because I didn't know what the buttons were at the time. I'm just like, I don't read the instructions. You come to my house and look at the IKEA furniture, I'm pretty sure there's some extra pieces that I didn't put on there. I'm just saying. But
spare parts. But it's fine.
Spare parts. But it's just, they're like, we're gonna do the fun thing. And their elevator pitch was probably like, hey, what if we made a survival game, but we had the Pokemon element, and then people were like, ooh, I like that. That's really good. And then somebody else goes, add guns, and they're like, no, he's a genius.
One of the developers, I don't know if it was the lead developer or not, he actually said, we added guns because Americans like guns.
I read that.
That was their thing. They're just like, we just added guns because you guys like guns, so we put guns in our game. That's it.
It's that meme of people are like really mad, and they're like, but wait a minute. He's got a point.
He's out of line, but he's right.
I mean, the funny thing is, Americans, whatever, some of the most popular games in the world are shooters, right?
Yeah,
like
they got guns.
Most of them, right? Call of Duty is one of the biggest franchises of all time. That's not just American. I'm not trying to defend America. I'm just saying, like, it's shooters, Overwatch,
it's popular.
Valorant, like, it's a thing. And because it's a skill game, usually, right? The concept of a shooter is easy to understand. Remnant does very well within its realm because the core concept of a shooter is put the reticle over the thing and press the button. Like, there's not, you don't really have to worry about, like, oh, I'm not in range to get my gun lance explosion because I'm using ultra wide. You know what I'm saying? Like, or I'm using wide shot. You don't have to think about
ultra wide shot.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do. I just thought it was when you said ultra wide.
You're like, why can't I get in there?
Shelling.
What is it? It's long,
no,
normal, and
you're right. It is
wide,
wide, but it's not ultra wide.
Ultra wide.
Ultra
it
wide.
needs to be ultra wide.
Exactly. Ultra wide shelling.
But you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
and it's like,
agree,
if I hit the reload at the right moment, I can, refill my shell.
Yeah.
It's like, nah. Why don't you just put the reticle over the guy? And I know I'm really minimizing the element of shooter. There's vast amounts of skills in them. But you know what I mean? The concept is absolutely easy to understand. Put the thing over the guy, press the button, and then everything else is just what you learn over time, right?
Yeah, but
which is the gun that you like the best, which is the.
But I think we've had a lot of really good games that are doing that type of stuff with the early access. We recently had Hades 2. Not sure if you had a chance to play that yet or not. I've put in a couple of runs.
Early access.
So you played it before it came out even?
I played it like a couple of weeks before.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a lot of hours on it. In fact, it's funny. I don't even have a lot of hours in Hades. I've got a few, but I have and I love those types of games, and I love that type of progression. But I never got diehard into it where it's like, oh, I might heat, 54, whatever the max was. No, it's like I always get sucked into the other games like, oh, I'm playing Soulstone Survivors, or oh, I'm playing, what's the other, Vampire Survivors, or I'm playing Death Must Die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The, another game that came out this year that I'm very curious to hear from you, because I know we have limited time, and I also want to get to Remnant. Oh, yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2. Did you play that?
Okay, so Dragon's Dogma, I did play it. I played it a lot.
Am I going to be disappointed with the censor, Ben? Come on now.
Dragon's Dogma 2 for me is a game that, because I loved Dragon's Dogma 1.
Yeah.
And Dragon Dogma 2, I was super, super hyped about. I have about 60 hours in it. I haven't finished it.
Okay.
It felt to me, and I played it a lot. It felt to me like the game was trying to make me not have fun sometimes.
Oh, damn. You're one of those people.
Well, okay. I'll tell you why. Because I jumped in with Fighter, and then I went to Warrior. And then so I'm using Warrior, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get the greatsword experience, right? And the shoulder is cool. I don't know if you played Warrior, but the shoulder is cool.
I played all of them.
Played them all. Shoulder's badass, but it goes like 1 inch. And I'm like, okay, well, there's no roll, so I got to use the shoulder. So this is me getting used to playing Warrior. I'm like, okay, I did a big slam, cost a ton of stamina, fair. Now I got to get close. So I either shoulder, which goes 1 inch, and I have stagger reduction, which is okay, or I let my guy recover, and then I have to walk however far it is. Okay, cool. So I got used to that. I got different moves, and I started using what is it called? The lance version of this, the lance move.
The charge. I forget the name, but the one where you run forward. Yeah.
Yeah, that was how I got around the world. I'm like, okay, I got used to it, and I'm sure that there's stuff to build in the end, and I got all the way to Warfare, and I got all that stuff. So I'm like, okay, so that was my first part. My second part of where I was like, okay, I was hoping it was a little different. It is what it is, cool. And then I'm, at the time I'm hearing about my friends, oh, I'm playing Rogue, he's invincible, I can't die. And I'm like, damn, I wish I had some of that. They're like, nobody can ever hit me because they had, the go, what is it, invisible or whatever.
No, okay, cool. they have a thing which uses stamina to dodge automatically, and they just dodge everything.
Gotcha. So I was like, all right, well, it's not the same game as Monster Hunter. It's not the same game as some of the other games I played. Okay, I'm fine. So then I'm playing, and I get to what's the town called? It's like the pass, the one that's between the sand town and your main town, or the desert town and the main one. I can't remember.
Checkpoint Rest Town.
Yeah, there you go. So I get there, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to Baklava. I don't know what's not Baklava. What's it? Yeah, Bakbatal. Baklava is funnier, but no, just kidding. But I'm like, okay, cool. So I work my way over to it. Finally get there. It takes half an hour, however long hour, because I'm exploring. I get there, cool. There's no teleporter. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll have to use my teleporter here because I only had one at the time. Cool. So then I work my way all the way to the east, to the other town, because I'm doing the quest for warfare and some of the other stuff.
Oh,
with the elves. Way out there.
The volcanic
No
isles.
teleporter. Yep, no teleporter. And I'm like, okay, that was a long, long walk.
It's surprising to me that at that point you only had one.
I only had one, and there were certain quests that I missed. Like I know you get one from doing like the arrow quest, I think, or not the arrow quest, the elf quest. I know you get one of that, but I wasn't looking up anything. I was just playing, right? And I'm like, I just got one.
No,
so I was always very
fair,
cautious. Yeah. So then, the part where I started to get really annoyed, because trust me, everything else about it I really like, is when I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna take a cart. I'm gonna take a cart. Cart system is cool. I like it. And the cart says they only run at the daytime. Fair, cool. Wait till the daytime. I take my cart. It's taking me to Bakbatal or Balaclava because whatever, or baklava because it's delicious. And I'm going on. I nod off. Okay, cool. Oh, I got woken up. It's nighttime. Wait a minute. You said they don't go at night. They go during the day.
Yeah,
because normally one going the day wouldn't. That's weird. Okay, it got interrupted by an ogre. Fair enough. First time it happened, oh shit, it's going down. I jump out of the back, kill the ogre. All right, get back on my cart. Cool. No, actually the cart got destroyed.
The cart got destroyed, so now you have to walk. Yeah.
So I got to walk. So now it's another 15 minutes because I got to fight through stuff. Okay, fair. That was fun. It was emergent. Cool. Next time I do it. Okay, cool. Take the thing. Got interrupted by a griffin or whatever it was, right?
That definitely destroyed the cart.
Yeah. No. So it destroyed the cart again, and I tried to pull it away. I tried to do. Okay, damn, man, I gotta walk. It takes me longer, by the way, to get on the cart, get interrupted, and walk than it does to just walk.
To just walk.
I'm like, okay.
Depends on the distance. It's not always the case. Yeah,
that's true. But so then the third time, and this is like the 20th or 30th or 50th cart that I ever took, but this is 3 in a row. The third time, another ogre. Of course, it gets interrupted, and I know there's ways to reduce the chance you get interrupted with a gem or whatever they're called. But anyway,
there is
third time. Yeah, there's like one of the things where you pick the stats for your build, like extra stamina or whatever. You pick those stats that you can put on there.
Yeah.
One of them is like reduced chance to get interrupted or something. It's really minor, but third time, take the cart. Ogre shows up. I'm ready. I bust him up. No problem. I jump back on the cart. Ready? I'm like,
did the driver die?
The driver got killed. I'm like, It's like when I missed a Pokemon. But imagine missing 500 Pokeballs in a row. That was my rage at the time. And this was I was like 50 hours at this point, right? But like the exploration, finding dungeons, I love it. I really appreciate the getting somebody's what are they called again? Not rooks.
Pawns.
What are they called? Pawns. I was close. Bishops. I get their pawn.
Did you use my pawn? It was an official pawn. I had an official pawn.
I don't think I used anybody's official pawn.
I can't believe you wouldn't use my pawn. I'm disappointed.
Well, now I'm going to go back and play it with your pawn because I want to try it with Rogue and I want to try it with
Yeah, my pawn's the best tank in the game. He's the best tank.
Oh, really? I'll have to try that. I will say my best battles were when I had another tank alongside me who was the warrior, and they were just taking it was awesome. So I want to go back and try that, but there's so many elements of the game where I'm like, this is awesome. I love this too. This is cool. And then there's so many times where I'm like, did they not want me to have fun at this specific point? Like it's obviously not, but and you could say that about any game. You could say that about Remnant. You could say that about, like, I'm not bagging them because I put a lot of hours in it. I got people to play the game, but sometimes I just got annoyed where I'm like, this stupid cart. Why is this stupid cart? Or when you have no money, you can't teleport back and forth, so you have to take the cart. I get that, and it's thematic.
Did you ever get the gondola destroyed?
No, I don't think I ever took a gondola. Yeah, the thing on the right. I don't think I ever took one.
The griffins can come and they can just like break it down while you're on it. That thing's hilarious. First time that happened to me, I was like, what the hell?
It's badass. They have a lot of badass moments. The knocking the ogre over and walking across him to a bridge, knocking him off the edge. Like, there's so many amazing, awesome things in there, right? Where I was like, badass. And it kept me playing. But every once in a while, I'd be like, oh, I got to go to Bakbatal. No. Or I got to go back to the east. No, I don't have a teleporter. I don't have, I haven't set one down. Because you can get, 10 or so of those teleporters?
I think Cowboy set per run, you can get 6 or 5. I'm not
okay. Well,
sure.
Even that's more than enough, right? Obviously,
you only need 3, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
The other ones is just extra, really.
And I appreciate the fact that the game feels larger than it may even be because you can't fast travel quite as much.
It definitely feels larger than what it is.
Absolutely. And I'm learning, and trust me, I appreciate learning landmarks going, ooh, that's that rock. I know where I am. I'm in the northwest area. Or that's the bridge that goes to, okay, I know where that is. You're finding stuff. I love the rook part, which I was talking about before, where the rooks say like, oh, in my travels, I found a dungeon here. And you're like, oh, or in my travels, I found a chest near here. You want me to get it? And you go. And they go get it. And you're like, okay, well, I got 2 nickels and a loaf of bread, but hey, that's still pretty cool. Like it just felt cool.
Yeah, the way living. That the pawns integrate with the questing system is really cool.
I never had a problem with the plague. And again, I really like almost everything in the game. But the things that annoy me maybe more than other people, where I'm like, why?
No, there's a lot of people that got annoyed by the traveling, the lack of fast travel, and the interruptions in the cart. Wasn't the case for me, but I've seen a lot of people complain about it. And here's a question for you, as from a game design standpoint. Do you think that game would have been better if it had fast travel? Like traditional fast travel.
Well, traditional fast travel, I don't know. I surprisingly, I may say no. But what I think it could do to alleviate some of it is, A, no stamina use out of combat, like the towns, because when you're in the town, there's no stamina cost.
But do you know why they do it?
No, well, I don't know what their justification is.
Because at least that's what I'm thinking. Because the weight that you have on your inventory dictates how fast your stamina regenerates and how fast you move. So they want what you are carrying to dictate how fast you can travel throughout the world. At least that's my interpretation of it.
Well, that's fine. But if that's the case, I would have said have stamina in town then, so it's consistent, right? Like if that's truly the case, cool.
But, yeah, you are right. Yeah.
Because in town there's no stamina, and trust me, I appreciate that quality of life. I love it because I'm walking back and forth, and it's especially in Bakbatal, from your house to the smith, or from your house to the vendor, like you got to walk across the hall. Mm-hmm. I get it, but it just felt inconsistent there. So then I was like, okay. In regards to fast travel, I think if each town had their, what is it called? The World Stone, not World Stone.
The Port Crystal.
The Port Crystal. If the main towns had the Port Crystal and you earned your way to them, and then you could at least teleport to them with a cost, which is what they have. Obviously, it's early on, it's kind of expensive.
Fairy stones.
Yeah, and obviously those goes down. Goes down. You earn some. You can get them cheaper, 8,000, 7,000, wherever you get them.
You can.
I can't remember. Yeah, I bought them somewhere where they're 8K. I don't know if it was the center town or whatever.
You probably romanced that NPC, didn't you? Yeah, you did.
I might have. There's nothing wrong with a romance game, right? So if it was just the main towns, and it was just stamina out of combat, stamina in combat, I'm all for. I get it, but like it just felt weird because there was no stamina use in towns. And I understand some of the decisions behind it, or I think I do. That's fine. But I think just those things would have made me enjoy it even more, because like I said, there are parts of it that I very much enjoy. You're a Monster Hunter fan, obviously, big Monster Hunter guy.
Yeah.
Knocking a guy out of the air is badass, right? Jumping on the guy and doing a thing and knocking him out of the air is even more badass. Knocking him out of the air after jumping on him and then charging up and one-shotting him is the best thing, right? Like it's bad. Or just seeing 4 bars go away because you went, I missed my Pokeball, blah. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It has so many cool things. And I'm definitely going to go back and try Rogue, and I'll probably end up doing, I guess, what was it, Mystic Archer? That was supposed to be like
Magic Archer is completely busted.
Magic Archer, because there's Mystic Spearmint, Mystic what's the
Spearhand.
Mystic?
That's
so
the
those all look
Jedi
amazing.
class. Jedi
exactly
class,
warping around. They look badass. And then I was watching videos after because I'm like, okay, is my build just whack? Am I missing something? And they're like, okay, if you have this build and you have all these things and you have all this, these upgrades from the dude in the cave and everything, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. You do this, you build your guys, knock the guy out of there, bam, you're dead. Okay, I got you. But then I see these other classes like Rogue going, you can't hit me, you're dead. You're like, okay, that was pretty bad. Or Magic Archer, you're dead. I'm like,
if you want easy mode, if you go Sorcerer, they pretty much just do one Maelstrom and kill anything in the game. They'll kill pretty much anything in the game with one spell.
And it's funny because all of the people that I talked to about it who enjoyed it much more than me were not playing the classes I was playing. Because they're like, oh yeah, I'm playing Rogue, I can't even die. Or I'm playing Sorcerer. I don't know, my three rooks go in and they distract it and I blow it up. And I'm like, I wish I could do that. And I know you can a little bit later, and there's some really crazy warfare builds and warrior like I got it, but it just felt even slower. And I'll tell you something, that sounds like I'll tell you something, buddy.
I'm gonna tell you something.
I'll tell you, brother. When I started playing No Rest, I started with Greatsword. And Greatsword, it was a little bit different near the after the first third, because I was slaughtering everything. Mm-hmm. But the first third in No Rest as a Greatsword main, quote unquote, was painful because you don't know any of the parry windows, right? And you don't have any poise, and you miss one parry, and then the guy goes, ugh, with his axe and knocks you down, and he goes, oh, by the way, you're dead. You're going to die in 2 seconds. And you're like, no, let me get up. And he goes, you're dead. And I'm like, why is Greatsword forsaken to me in these great time of gaming? And then it becomes I got poison.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, then I got poise, and I'm like, wait, these guys can't even interrupt me. Of course, poise is crazy, right? I had like high poise, and I'm like, I dare you to come at me, and the guy will come at me and punch, and I'm like, haha, you're dead. And it was funny. I just thought it was humorous that both Greatswords that I played back to back were like, no, the starting part was so rough. But No Rest is, like I said, to me it's on track, or it has the potential to be one of those high 9 games or mid 9 games.
There's people that are calling it their game of the year already, even in early access.
When I finished the content, I was like, please let me have the second act. I don't even care if it's finished. Can I just play the second act?
Just let us keep going.
And I'll tell you, it gives me that very rare feeling, and I know it's not finished, but it gives me that rare feeling of like when I played WoW for the first time. It's not like WoW, but when you play WoW for the first time and you see the environment for the first time, or you go through the cemetery and it's like all these, these houses, and
it's super immersed.
It's incredible. And it's just a new feeling. You're like, wow, it's so much variety. In No Rest, when you're on top of a mountain and you're looking down and far because of the verticality, you're just like, wow, I can get there. I can go there, or I was there, which is also the same thing I got in Souls 1. When you go to, what was it called? The very first keep. You come up the stairs, you cross the bridge, and then you go into the first keep where that might have been it, where it's the first, or it's the second world stone, and then you go across the bridge where the guy's throwing bombs at you, and you're like, I hate this guy that's throwing bombs
at me.
That's
definitely the undead
right?
part, yeah.
And you go through there, you do all this stuff, and then you come back, and you're on top, and you're looking down, and there's a stone, campfire, and you're like, these guys just reused graphics. These guys trying to get away with everything. And then you're like, you kick the ladder down, you're like, it's the same place. God, it's the same place.
It's a shortcut.
And I might say, I don't want to go on record, even this is being recorded and putting on the internet. It may have better world connectivity, than Souls 1, which is to me like peak. Because one of my first, I don't know, because I've only played the first act. I'm just saying potentially. I went up into that area. There's an area where you climb up a tower, a stone tower, and then you walk across, and then there's a little jump, and there's a boss there, or like an elite, a little guy there. You jump across. I think it's where you have to rescue the cook. But early on, there's a guy there. There's the cook, and then behind him, there's a ladder you have to go around and knock out. Anyway, I found my way up there. I didn't know where anything is. I'm like, I'm going to bust this guy up. I got him to like a quarter hit points, and he pushed me, and I fell off the ledge. And I'm like, okay, well, I died. Good job. And I was falling like Bill and Ted's.
Yeah.
I kept falling. And then I fell into a lake. I thought I was dead. I thought I was going to get, you are dead. This was right in the beginning of the game. Now I'm in a lake. And I'm like,
you can swim.
Wait a second. Yeah, first of all, I can swim. Second of all, wait a second. And then I walked around, or I swam around. I got up on a shore. I found some stuff, found a chest. Finding chests is always cool. Killed some crabs or whatever it was, some rats. Worked my way up. Found myself in the back area of an area I couldn't get to before. Kicked down a ladder or open door. I can't remember what it does. And then I found my way back to where I was at the start. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. It is all connected. And then I did the same thing when you're in the first, what is it, the shallows, and you go all the way to the west in the shallows, and you see the dungeon that has the slime covering the door in the beginning. It's the whatever that deep is, Black Deep or whatever it's called. And then there's a tower there that you can kick down. And you can walk. And I'm like, it's all connected. Everything is connected. And sometimes you're like, I want to go to the shadows. Well, plug your nose and jump off a cliff, and you're going to land in the water. Like it's all connected, and it feels amazing. So it has such a great feel.
The level design is really good. Yeah, I agree.
And the art is like second to none. Like I've loaded it up for 5 seconds at work. And I'm like, hey guys, look at this move. I want to show you the shoulder move that I really like. And everybody goes, that looks incredible. I'm like, look at the shoulder move. I'm not talking about the art.
Yeah, forget about the art.
So good. It looks so good. And these are like not artists. They're just like designers or combat guys or whatever. And they're like, oh my God, it looks so good. I'm like, yeah. It looks great. But look at this move. And they're like, no, look at that. That tree looks incredible. I'm like, damn it. But yeah, it's amazing. So,
So in the industry right now, one of the things that I've noticed this year is that we've had a lot of AA games. And one of the things to me is, what do you consider Remnant 2 to be? Is it a AAA game or is it a AA game?
Oh, it's definitely not a AAA game. I don't know how to define a AAA game, really. I know that sounds funny after I just said Remnant's not a AAA game. But, like, I typically think of something as... I think there's two definitions of a AAA game, maybe. One would be...
the budget?
A game that has... Well, one is the budget. Yeah, like when you have 100 million, 150 million, like...
That's
it's
AAA.
funny because 100 million for a game that's there's a cat over here. 100 million for a top tier game now is almost cheap, right? Some of these games are costing 150, 200. What is it? GTA is $1 billion, or is it $2 billion that they're spending on that game? I
have no idea.
They're going to make it back in the first thing. That's like quintuple A, but whatever. So the other one is a game that I don't want to offend anybody, but would No Rest be in that AA where it's like not a massive budget, but they make it look like a AAA. It looks incredible. It's got the support.
I
the
would
marketing.
look at
it's
No
so
Rest, and I think it would be considered the AA as well. Even though again, it's super impressive, but I would
looks
say
like
it's
a triple.
yeah, exactly. I'd say it's a AA game.
Because I don't know, but I don't think they spent $150 million on that game. It looks like they spent the house on it because it looks incredible. It plays well. They have all these, kind of like, I don't want to, it's not really, is it live service? Because I know you have some quests and they want you to play it for a while. Got PvP, or it will have PvP.
I wouldn't,
co-op.
I think they have a plan for it to be extended for a long period of time, but I don't know if I would call that game a live service. No, not at this stage true. Anyway.
Well, especially in this community nowadays, live service is like, I hate it.
You don't want to be known as a live service.
So Remnant is what I would say is Remnant it was definitely in the AA space. It's definitely not AAA, right? Because our budget is not very high. Comparatively speaking, right? Like if you compare it to a game, like here's a good question: how much did Vampire Survivors cost to make? I don't know, but it can't be that much.
Yeah,
and it won BAFTA awards. So now is that a AAA game? Because it literally won BAFTA awards and it won all these awards, or is it just an indie game? And is it how do you? It's so hard to categorize any of this stuff. But yeah, Remnant is in that realm of AA, relatively small team, not a crazy budget, doesn't have the marketing budget. We don't have billboards everywhere, and there isn't a giant like Andrew Ford on the E3, convention center, but yeah, it is what it is, and I think we work within our means, and like I said, try to make the best game that we can. We try to provide the gameplay and the length of game and the amount of things to do as any AAA game or more if we can. We try our best to do that. But yeah,
it's because I would say that nowadays, especially in 2024, we're definitely seeing the rise of what I would consider to be more really solid AA experiences that take more chances that AAA apparently can't afford to take because they're just not agile enough in those terms. Like, for instance, I would argue Palworld, that's a AA game. It sold 20 million copies.
I mean,
more than 20. I think
right.
It was 25 last time I checked or something ridiculous.
I mean, the budget
like
was
that.
what, $6 million that they started with or something really small?
I have no idea what their budget was, but
it was it was
small.
It started really small. And that's one of those, I mean, here's the thing. What about something like Lethal Company? What about where do you even, like, those games just or Among Us, or games that just catch fire, right? That just like boom. Like those, none of those are AAA games, right? But they dominate many AAA games. Like if you think about a game like, well, dominate in terms of sales, like you pointed out Palworld. I would absolutely argue that Crystal Dynamics Tomb Raider games or Marvel or whatever are AAA games. Those are massive budget productions with multi-studios. But then you see something like, I'm not going to say Lethal Company made as much money as those games, but Palworld certainly did.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they sold 20 million and their budget was a shoestring, and they just said, look, man, we're going to do Pokemon with guns and we're going to have some fun stuff. And they just made mechanics that resonated with people, and it had the hook. And does it matter? I guess the real question is, does it matter, right? Like if you're trying to categorize what Remnant is, sure, it probably fits somewhere in the double.
My argument is, like, I feel like there's a lot of AA games recently that have been taking chances that AA doesn't dare to take because they know they need to sell a certain amount of copies. Like, for instance, in your case, the way in which you guys do puzzles, that is unapologetically, here's what it is. Like, AAA doesn't feel like they can actually afford to do stuff like that because, well, but then the players won't see it. Then the players won't solve it. This is a problem.
That's a great point. I'll give you some insight, and then I'll give you a perfect segue into your next topic because I know what's coming. Or I'm guessing. So Remnant, especially Remnant 1, when nobody knew what it was and the publishers were trying to figure it out, it was a little bit more survivally, I think, or at least that was the concept. It was never really that. It was guns, Souls guns. Obviously, Guns with Souls was the elevator pitch, I'm sure, or some version of that. I wasn't around at the time when that was pitched. I'm just saying, I can imagine all that stuff. And like the sense of wonder is a big thing from the creative director, Dave Adams. It's like, he loves Terraria. I'd love just digging in the ground and then like, oh shit, I found a blood altar. Or I found an altar. What does this do? I don't know. Because it doesn't tell you, right? Or what happens if I build a ladder to the sky? Holy shit, I can stand on the cloud and I can, you know what I mean? It's just a sense of wonder. And yes, it's very wiki friendly. But there were times where there are people that don't, what's the word? There are times when people that are trying to help you sell the game or even market the game or get it into other people's hands have a hard time explaining it. And if you just give them a game that goes, hey, it's up to you. You get in there, you figure it out. And they go, oh, it might be nice if you had, let's say, for example, we don't have this, but, it'd be nice to have a compass in the game. So at least I can tell my friends, I want to go north. And then, so you can see those types of decisions affect the game where you're like, that's pretty good feedback. We don't have one, but I'm just saying, you could see, hey, that's pretty good feedback. Maybe we should add that. And then somebody goes, hey, what if you had a more in-depth tutorial? What if you had, and then you look at the inspirations of like a Souls, and Souls is like, read these 3 hash marks on the ground, and they say, press B to dodge. And you could have just walked right by it. Or you could have missed the shield that's over here on the left side in this little area. And you pick up the sword and you're like, I guess I'll read this. And it says, press, RT or RB to attack. And you're like, oh, okay. So it told me attack and dodge. They actually just told you 97% of the entire game, which is attack and dodge. And then they just said, F it. You're on your own.
Figure it out. Yeah.
And because they did it so well, they've earned the right, in my opinion, to keep doing that. But like every new game or every new IP you're trying to get off the ground, it's very hard to be like, you can't just say, oh, it'll be like that and people will like it, because you never know, right? It's really interesting. It's really interesting to launch a game with a very specific certain type of vision when it's even hard to explain to some people, like, oh, we think people are going to like this. We think, and you're like, yeah, but every other game, even the big games, the AAA games, they'll say, no, go here, follow this marker, do this.
They give you like a super hand-holdy tutorial, and they make sure that the player goes through this roller coaster ride where they get to see every single thing.
And I'll tell you something. I played Tiny Tina a year or two ago, whenever it came out. And Tiny Tina was interesting because we were right in the thick of making Remnant 2 or at the time. And Tiny Tina started with, and I liked the game. I played a ton of it. It starts you in this open. Have you played it?
No, I haven't played Tiny Tina.
It starts you in this open area, and it's giving you some insight how to play the game. And it goes, it says something like go to the bridge or go to the town or whatever. There's only one way to go. There's only one way to walk. But they give you the line. And this is in the heyday, or in the thick of us working on Remnant. It's like, I'm like, do we really need the line? There's only one way to go. Like, there's only, and I get it, you can use the line later when it's more open and stuff like that. But it just made me think about, like, did somebody look at the game and go, we need to make sure that players can, we want to make sure players enjoy the game, right? Like, but you don't know how people are going to enjoy your game. You obviously got massive amounts of enjoyment out of Dogma 2. I got a lot of enjoyment out of Dogma 2, but I had my own issues with it. If I was a producer on that project, I might have ruined your experience.
Yep.
By adding more fast travel. I wanted to add the line by making it so the cart can, and I don't know what I would have done because I don't know what the vision of the director was. But you see what I'm saying? It's like, sometimes you just got to stick to your vision and be like, we think people are going to like it. We're going to go with it. And then, it's weird. I was going to give you, it's funny because I was going to give you the segue into Helldivers, which was, what is Helldivers? Is Helldivers AAA?
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Or is it single A? Or double A, sorry.
I would argue that Helldivers is also a AA game that, again, they're going for a very specific vision of the stuff that they're doing. Yeah. I would
Helldivers does, I don't want to say one thing because it sounds like I'm marginalizing or minimizing what they do, but they do one thing incredibly well, which is load up, go out, kick ass. And then they theme it amazingly. They package it, the whole thing, incredibly. And there's a lot of depth. It's simple to learn, hard to master, teamwork. But the game is very straightforward, right? Like, it's shooting. I go out and I got to kill bugs. I got to kill robots, and I can call out bombs and I can do amazing things. But you're right. It's like there's not, I wouldn't say it's AAA, but I would certainly say it's an incredible, amazing.
Exactly.
I played a lot of Helldivers. It's
so you've also been pretty addicted to Helldivers when it came out, I would assume, because I played.
When Helldivers came out, I played 50 hours on the first day. I know that's not impossible, or that's not possible. But I played like 50 hours in like 4 days, right? Like, I was just It was like I don't know if it was the weekend, but nonstop. I was playing with friends co-op, and then I got sidetracked by working on DLC 2. Right.
Yeah.
But I was like all the war bonds. I was doing unlocking everything. Things, I didn't do the pay to unlock it. I was like, I'm grinding it. Right.
Yeah.
Everything. Had a real fun time. Lots of that game is all laughs, right? Especially when you're playing with teammates. You're like,
oh yeah, 100%.
Why have you just blown us up? I hate you. Let's do another run.
Because it was fun. Because I had to blow you up.
The amount of trolling in that game is the funniest thing ever. Like, you go up to the drop ship and your friend's doing the high, like I set up a high five, he high fives me and we dive on after I drop down a 500 kg bomb. So it's timed. So when I fly off, it blows up and it looks like cool guys running away from the explosion. So I do that a few times. And then the third time, because rule of three,
Things
I put up
go
the high
wrong.
five. He goes to do it. I shoot him in the face. I dive in there. They blow off and everybody just cry and laugh. And I'm like,
Shoot him in the
it's
face.
just funny.
It's like I randomly shot my friend in the face. You know, sometimes democracy goes wrong.
Hey, I'm just saying. Maybe we got a spy in our midst. I don't know. I'm just saying. It's like you didn't pick up enough of the little things, the little resources. But
So have you kept up with what's been happening with Helldivers 2, the whole situation?
I've been watching it from the beginning of like, hey, in what they said we're gonna require the PSN, and we knew ahead of time.
Yeah.
We wanted to. It was like a test drive. I don't remember all the wording, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then
the announcement.
the crazy review bombs, and then the Operation Repair or whatever they're called, what it's called now, where they're like, repairing I still have it installed. Yeah, it's like it's crazy, right? Let me see, like Helldivers. So Helldivers, what is it at now? Because it was down.
It was overwhelmingly negative for a day at least, because I remember seeing it go from
it was
mostly
15%, right? Yeah,
I don't know how much it was, but it was overwhelmingly negative on the main one and on the recent one, and then I think it was like just mostly negative on the other one.
So it's mixed now at 69, so it's about to go back to
on the all-time
positive.
On the all-time,
it's 75.
because the recent one will probably be mostly positive or overwhelmingly positive, I would assume.
Yeah,
there's
the
like
only
two
problem.
things. Yeah,
I said this to my friend. I was like, the biggest problem with all of the downvoting, which. Well, it's all personal opinion, and as a dev, I'm going to come off as biased. I don't particularly think it's cool to dog at anybody's game especially for a decision they may not have, because I don't know, they may not have had a choice in. I don't know, because they had a deal. I don't know what their deal is. I can only guess, but it's pretty rough, because I can imagine working on a game, maybe it's Remnant, whatever, and then somebody up
imagine if Remnant 2 was like an exclusive and Sony. But let's put the situation like this, right? You knew from the beginning that the game was going to need PSN accounts. But when you launch the game, you waive that requirement because servers get overloaded. Because that's actually what happened. The CEO from Arrowhead Studios has actually said that like he knew 6 months ahead of launch that the PSN account was going to be a requirement. But during launch, they blew up the servers. And here's an interesting thing. People always like to say, oh, we always have this problem when new games come out. They literally set up servers that were 10 times the capacity of the peak of the players of Helldivers 1. So their server capacity was set up for 10 times more players than we had at our peak on our first game. And people still blew that completely out of the water, right? So to them, this is completely unexpected. So when that happens, they're like, okay, we're going to waive the PSN requirements so that we don't have to deal with this server situation. Yep. But in the back of their mind, they know this is going to come back at some point later. But the problem then becomes the game gets sold through Steam, and Steam operates in a lot of countries where PlayStation doesn't.
Yeah, that part I understand the ire of the community where they're like, well, I'm not going to be able to play anymore. I'm not going to be able to play with my friends. Like trust me, I get that. I think there is not everybody adheres to the same standards of reviewing, because I know Steam, for example, is yes or no. It's really simple.
Yeah.
And I think in some cases, gamers can be very fickle where they're like, let's say, nerfed my gun.
Yeah.
I'm going to change my 250-hour review where I had the most fun I've ever had to negative just because of that. And
there's people that are a little bit unreasonable. Like I've seen, for instance, with Elite Dangerous, where people would have reviews with 500 hours. It's like, I played 500 hours and there's nothing left to do. I don't like this game. I was like, you got 500 hours of content.
We've had a few of that on Remnant. We have a couple there, and we get. I mean, it's humorous, right? Because
I think it's unreasonable if somebody that I played this game for 100 hours and I ran out of content. It's like, well yes,
we've had that. We've had that exact review, which is, I got to the end and I've collected everything and there's nothing to do. 278 hours played. I'm like,
and it's a negative review.
Yeah, and I'm like, I honestly, I cannot help you. I wish you got 300 hours. I wish I could have given you more to get 400 hours. I wish I could.
It's
and
insane.
I wish we could have. But Remnant is not a live service game. We have there's no real. Well, there is a benefit, but I was going to say there's no major benefit to having you play 1,000 hours other than you going, hey, I played this game. I played it for 1,000 hours. You should buy it too. That's as far as it goes. There's no MTX. There's no supporter packages besides the DLC, of course, which was up front. There's no like buy 20 hats, buy 2 guns for $10.99. There's none of that.
Yeah.
There's literally none of that. In fact, we do the free guns. Here's 5 guns here, corrupted guns. Here's 5 guns, corrupted. If that was some other companies, those might have cost money. And we're just trying to give you more ways to play the game. And look, if you get to the end and you truly, honestly feel like it wasn't enough for you, then that's your opinion and I can respect it. But when the review is, there wasn't enough for me to do, and you're at 300 hours, I'm like, okay, well, I don't really believe that. If you say performance, if you say I crashed, if you say I don't like subjective opinion.
I don't like the game.
I don't like how these puzzles. Well, I don't like the game, or I think having puzzles that you have to go to a wiki to solve is lame. That's okay. I got you covered. Nope.
Yeah.
That's totally fair, right? But like when you just say there's nothing to do and you have hundreds of hours in the game, I'm like, well, okay, well, you win this one, I guess. You know what I mean?
But circling us back around, so we had all those negative reviews that happened around the Helldivers 2 thing, and then because of the fact that the game, apparently there weren't PSN accounts, it just feels like there wasn't that much preparation where they were going through that drama, and they were just like, well, we don't know. What about if my country doesn't have a PSN? And the actual response from community managers and whatnot is, we don't know. We're trying to figure that out. It's like,
I'll tell you.
Insane.
And this is me looking from the outside in as somebody who is the pseudo community manager for Remnant, even though I'm not. I'm not, but even though I'm the pseudo one, it's basically myself and John Pearl who kind of like interact and do stuff like that. It's like I definitely would have tried to choose different words for some of those responses. You know what I mean? I even heard that one of the community managers is getting let go. I don't know how true that is, but I'm like, sheesh.
One of them got fired because apparently he told people you should
leave a
negative, leave a negative review on Steam so that we can pressure Sony. That's, and apparently Sony didn't like that very much.
Yeah, look, and I've learned a lot by interacting with the community. One is how to better debate people without intentionally antagonizing them, because I am generally somebody that goes, oh really? I'd love to do that. Like if you and I were talking about stuff, we're talking about Dogma, we're talking about No Rest or something that we don't like, you love and I don't like, or I love and you don't. I'm the guy that's like, oh really? But what about? But you're in a different position when you're representing a game and representing a company. I'm like, hey, look, I actually do understand where you're coming from. This isn't BS. I do understand where you're coming from, and I'm going to tell you our goals. We're trying to work toward these goals. I hope that what we do in the future is going to appease some of your concerns. We are going to stick to our vision. These are our goals on balance and this and that. But I'm not going to be like,
so you're
hey, if
trying
you don't
to
like it, downvote that. You know what I mean? Like and I probably have said in the past, and I'm like, I probably. But like the bigger you get, the more recognition the game gets. You gotta.
Yeah, I don't
sometimes
think
you just gotta roll with it.
I don't think they were ready for the amount of feedback that got placed. But then we also had the thing where it got delisted from other countries. Hasn't been relisted yet, by the way. They haven't fixed
even though
that.
they
revoked
the
need to have the PSN account, but they haven't relisted, at least as of the recording of this podcast, they haven't relisted those countries yet. Who knows if they will or if they won't, but it's a really strange situation. And would you have predicted when this all started that Sony would actually cave and remove the requirement for the accounts?
I definitely can see how. Well, let me answer the question. So yes, I can believe that they would do that because I think the backlash was so massive.
It was insane.
However, I think it also potentially sets a bad precedent because now they go, it worked on this game. Think of a game that can't do that. Think of a game that cannot afford to do that. And I'm not saying that gamers are wrong to express their disdain or dislike for something, but like, if you can bully Sony, right, or whatever we're calling it, you can absolutely bully anybody. And some people just don't have the effort money to be like, it's okay this time. You know what I mean? Like some people are like, oh, let's say No Rest. Now I know Moon is bigger, and I'm just going to use it because we talked about it. We don't like durability. Everybody get mad at durability. I'm just using it because it's a thing people go back and forth. It's not going to tank the game. It's not going to make it the best game ever. It is what it is. But imagine 250,000 people leave negative well, first of all, that's a problem. If you have 250,000 people ready to leave a negative review, you've sold 10 million copies, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever. But you know what I mean? But that's a different thing. I'm just saying it sets a bad precedent. I think if you're leaving a negative review, it should be for generally a valid reason. I think the Helldivers fans had a valid reason, so I get where that came from. But the whole concept of like, we got Sony to go back on their word, it could potentially have worse ramifications for other studios in the future that may not be able to pivot quite as easy. I don't know, I hope it doesn't. So
yeah, it was definitely a strange situation. So moving on to another industry topic, just to kind of wrap this section up with the Microsoft.
I may have to go pretty soon too, because we just had a batch, but we can do another one too. Let's do this one, and then we can wrap it up. Maybe we can do another one next week if you want, or something. I'm always up for anything. This was just the wrong day, but tomorrow I have an appointment, so I can't do it anyway. So. But anyway, what you got?
Yeah, the whole Microsoft situation. I don't know if you've been keeping tabs on what happened recently with the closure of studios and whatnot.
Oh yeah,
because this kind of wraps around back to what we're talking about. How there's these studios that are taking chances in AA, like for instance Tango Gameworks with Hi-Fi Rush, which phenomenal.
I played and loved.
Yeah, that game was phenomenal. Gave him tons of accolades. Was like, I think it was even nominated for Game of the Year or something like that. I think it won BAFTA awards even, right? Didn't it win BAFTA awards as well?
And then they came out afterwards and said, we need more games that win awards, small games that win awards.
And they closed Tango Game. How does that even work?
Well, I don't know all the details, and I'm sure there's lots of business reasons, but I did read, I think it was Mikami or somebody that had left or was leaving Tango and took
he left,
most of his guys with him.
I don't know if I don't know
most
how many
of his
people
team.
he took. Yeah, but he
I'm
took
not
something.
sure, but like the core, which I could, if that's entirely true, I could understand Microsoft going, well, we don't have the team that made this awesome game. We're going to shut the studio. I don't know. So I'm speaking in total hypothetical. But there's a lot of weirdness going on where I read something about obviously they spent $70 billion or whatever it is on all these acquisitions. And then they were like, that was ABK, right? But then they also bought Bethesda, right? Didn't they buy Bethesda?
Yeah.
And they closed some of those games down.
They bought Bethesda first, then they bought
for like
ABK.
$7 billion or something, and then they bought and it's like, but I think some of the wording, and again, I'm not in that world, that like marketing and production and big boss world. I'm like, hey, just pressing this button feel good. That's my business, right? Or does wearing these pants feel good, which is a much smaller job. But it felt like they were basically saying, well, we bought all this stuff because we knew it was hot property, but we kind of didn't know what to do with it. We weren't sure how to market it or how to, obviously Call of Duty markets itself, or does it? It's probably $200 million marketing budget nowadays. But you know what I mean? It sells itself, or FIFA, or whatever the new game, Football Club, whatever they call it now. Some of those games sell themselves, but like there's other stuff where it just felt like they kind of weren't maybe prepared to have all of this and then to support it all. And then it feels like, in a way, some of these smaller studios, like even an Arcane, right? Like Arcane isn't small. They've got some award-winning games and some amazing developers and recognizable names. It's like even that felt weird because it's like, regardless of what happened with Redfall. Okay, cool. I mean, it happens, and I understand that some people get let go, and that's terrible. But like, it's not like these guys don't have a proven track record on their previous other games and have won many awards. And it's like, and I know they only closed like one half of it, right? I think Leon is still around. They're working on Blade.
Arcane Leon is still safe. They didn't get hit by layoffs at all. It was Arcane Austin got completely gutted.
And that's close to us. That's like right down the street from us. So we know people that work there. We have people on our team that have worked there before this all happened. Maybe we'll have people on our team that have worked there now after this. Who knows? But it is definitely unfortunate. I can only guess, and it's a wild guess as to why those types of things happen. Obviously, I'm not involved in those type of decisions. I think it's really unfortunate when any of this stuff happened, because I guarantee you, there are people that worked on Redfall that put their life into it, that worked their asses off on that game, that decisions that somebody else made affected them and the outcome of what they could eventually put out. And I'll tell you, that feels horrible. So I definitely feel bad for anybody that's ever been in that situation. You can meme on Redfall, you can meme on other games that maybe didn't do so well, but there's always at least one person or two people or three people that work on these projects that put their life into it. Like, I know people bagged on Mass Effect. Was it Andromeda? Was it
Andromeda? Yeah, it was Andromeda.
There are people that work their asses off on these games. So I feel bad for that aspect of it, because
like I'll tell you,
somebody would happen on Rip.
Somebody who would work on whatever role you work on in Mass Effect Andromeda, they definitely put their whole blood, sweat, and tears into it. Because when I reviewed Andromeda, like when it was popular that everybody to take a dump on it, I was like, the combat in this game is actually really good. And that's why Anthem, the gameplay of Anthem, felt so good, because it was the combat that they established in Andromeda in a different game. And it was really good. But obviously, you had the problems with the story and the facial animations and all these other things.
And the funny thing is, I think gamers are a fickle bunch in some aspect. When there's something that they like and there's something that they dislike, they try to pit them against each other. Like, we have a lot of Destiny fans from Remnant 2, right? And we have people on the Remnant team, that myself included. I put 600 hours into Arrivals, Destiny season of Arrivals. One season, 600 hours myself on PC. I have like 700 hours on place. I've played 1,000+ hours, right? I love Destiny. I haven't played it in a long time. And so people will be in our Discord and they'll be like, we'll do something, we'll release something, and they'll be like, oh, if only Destiny can do this, or this or that, or look at this. We're not. And I'm like, dude, first of all, why are you bagging on another? Why are you using us to bag on another company, which we love and respect, and we have friends that work there. And even if we didn't, there are people there that are working their asses off. Like, there's no reason to pit us against each other, because all you're going to do is, I know you're thinking that you're giving us a compliment, and in a way, you are giving us a compliment, but it's a back-end compliment, or it has a back-end diss to another game which we love and respect and play. Like I said, I have people on my I'm looking over to the right, on my playlist now that I work with that play Destiny at lunch and at night, on the week. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I feel sorry for those people, man.
There's no reason to pit the games against each other, right? Be it if they're smaller than us, then they're bigger. And I try to tell people that all the time. We have guns in our game inspired by Destiny, homages, to Destiny. Like, why pit? Why can't we just have fun games? And if you like them, yes. Like, maybe I didn't enjoy Dogma as much as you, but I still enjoyed it. I got my money's worth out of it. I'll probably go back and play it, but I'm not going to go into another thing that I'm not related to and go, oh, I love, Dogma was okay. And then I'm playing Elden Ring. Why couldn't Dogma do that? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, what does it matter? Right? Like, who are you benefiting there? All you're doing is bringing negativity into the discussion. You could say, I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I find it to be more appealing to me than in some other games. And somebody could say that about other games compared to us all day. But you don't have to, like, crush other games. right? You don't have to like use them as a stepping stone to boost something else.
I've gone publicly saying that I wish Bungie would go under and that they would burn to the ground. Like, I'm sorry.
All right, well that's a bit extreme, but
I've said that because of the thing that they did with EXP early on in Destiny 2 that really rubbed me the wrong way, because they lied about it and then they doubled down on the lie, and then eventually they admitted it, and I was like, no, screw you guys. And then they did all of those microtransaction things. But so I don't like Destiny 2. But the thing is, I understand the point that you're bringing up, because a lot of times people do like to pitch one game against another. And like a recent thing that I've seen,
and I've done it too. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like there's 100% chance that you could go back and look at anything I've ever said in the future, and I'm like EA, blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh, by the way, I also like these 7 EA games, and they're some of my favorite games at all time. But ignore that, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, but like one of the things that I've noticed recently, particularly with a lot of mainstream media websites, is for whatever reason they've been pitching Hades 2 against Stellar Blade in terms of the sexiness of the characters and whatnot. And it's been so weird to me, because like just even yesterday I was reading a random article about Hades, and they were talking about, they have this thing about the sauna and whatnot, and it's really cool. And they're given this big description about what happens in the sauna and developing character relationships and why it's important. And then at the end of it, they're like, this is sexuality done right, not like what they did in Stellar Blade. And I was like, what the It's like just like a back away thing at the end of the article. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, listen, I know Greg Kasavin. I've gotten to interview him once.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I say
good old GameSpot, Greg Kasavin.
I got to speak with Greg Kasavin once, and from what I've spoken with him, I'm like, I know that he wouldn't be cool with you utilizing Hades 2 to take pot shots at Stellar Blade.
Oh yeah.
This is ridiculous. Like, there's no way that he would like that. Very much like probably Kim Jong, whatever, I forget his last name. My apologies. I'm terrible with
no, I got
foreign names, but like the guy who works on Stellar Blade, he wouldn't want people using Stellar Blade to take pot shots at Hades 2, but it's essentially what a lot of these articles end provoking. They're just like, there's the fans of Hades, and they're going to go to war with the fans of Stellar Blade. And it's like, come on, man.
Sometimes game journalism is I respect it as a profession, and and there are absolutely, funny enough, there are absolutely some amazing reviewers and writers, like Greg Kasavin was at GameSpot. Like, I used to go to GameSpot, and when I believe he gave a 9 to DMC3, and I'm like, the original, when it was harder in America than it was in the US, and I'm like, okay, I'm down with this guy because I liked what he said. And then I remember there was a funny case where Special Edition came out, and I think they rated it lower because Special Edition was easier. They shifted all the difficulties down, and they actually gave it a lower review, even though it was still a very respectable review. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing, buddy? Like, it's a better game, But anyway, I always liked Greg Kasavin, and when he left, I was like, oh no, he was one of the good ones, right? But I do think that there is a lot of also manufactured news and sometimes manufactured outrage, sometimes warranted outrage. But like, why do you have to pit Baldur's Gate against Stellar Blade, right? Like, that's a different comparison, because Baldur's Gate had the sexiness everywhere.
Yeah,
they had all
that was another one.
Do whatever, be a bear, be a sexy demon, be a thing.
Which again
romance.
Was something I think that people were bringing that up in from Stellar Blade. Right, from the Stellar Blade side of things, they were like, but in thing we had all of these in full nudity and whatnot. And it's like it's weird pitching all of these things together, but at the same time, there were also inconsistencies in some of these reporters where they were like, oh man, Stellar Blade like poor depiction of female women or whatnot, and then in the next article, dude's talking about, you know what they did in Baldur's Gate 3? They added penis physics. And it's like,
or Cyberpunk or Conan Exiles, or
exactly.
It's really funny too, because a friend of mine, Travis, who works at IGN, and I met him through Remnant and him coming to see Remnant. is we have discussions all the time about, like, because he's very opinionated. He is a reviewer, and he 100% takes his job seriously and puts the maximum amount of professionalism into his craft. And I'm not saying other people don't. I'm just saying, speaking on his behalf. And I know he will play a game that people will call the worst ever, and he will put all the hours into it. He won't play it 2 minutes. He won't play it 2 hours. He will finish it. He will get everything and be like, look, I'm going to give you my accurate, my version of my opinion on it, or my opinion. That's what it is. And I said, like, I asked him, shouldn't a review be objective in most of the cases? And I'm going to misquote him, and I don't want this to have any negative connotations toward him because I respect everything he does. But the way he said it is like, you can't take some subjectiveness out of it because you are the one playing the game, and it may make you feel a certain way. You know what I mean? And that's I agree with him. I mean,
I've always said there's a lot of people that have this notion that reviewers are unbiased, and I've always said there's no such thing as an unbiased review. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. Like, if I'm reviewing a video game, I'm not unbiased. Yep. The thing is, it's important that people are aware of what my biases are, so that you know, okay, so Rurikhan's biased towards Dark Souls, and he's biased towards Monster Hunter.
Of course.
Those are his biases, and I'm going to wear those on my sleeve forever because that's just the way that it is. And so people know, because the important thing is knowing what the reviewer's biases are so that you can take those into account when you're reading the review, because there's no such thing as an unbiased review. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I think I can't remember the topic, but I remember talking about something like, well, is it always about comparing? Like, do you have to compare one game against each other? And also, or can you judge it on its own merits? And then also, of course, the personal opinion and biases and things like that. And, you know, like I said, he always tries to do it fairly. And he says, but you cannot take away the experiences you've had in the past. If you have only played, he didn't say this part, but if you have only played Dark Souls your whole life, Dark Souls type games, and then the first game as a professional reviewer is Balattro, you might genuinely think it's a 3, right? Or because you don't know, there's no context for what you're comparing it against, to what it's supposed to be, right? But if you only played roguelikes your whole time and then played Balattro, you're like, this is the most amazing game I've ever played, because it's a twist on a formula that has existed so it's always going to factor in. I think as long as you're honest with what you're reviewing, I think as long as you are judging it against what it's giving to the community, for the value, for the genre, for gaming in general, and you're not trying to spark controversy intentionally, which I think some reviewers do.
Yep.
Then I think you're staying professional, and that's what you need to do. Yeah. So anyway.
So I wanted to talk about Remnant 2 because I feel bad we had you here, and I have all these topics still to talk about Remnant 2. Do you have time, or?
I could probably do a few more minutes. A few more. Let's see what happens. I got to go pretty soon though. But yeah.
Okay.
Not that I want to, because like I said, I could talk to you forever about games. So.
Well, thank you. So, Remnant 2, you guys released the DLC. Since last time we spoke, you've also added crossplay. I remember we talked about it, and you were like, this is super easy. We can just like flip a switch and it'll literally work. I'm guessing you guys finally got the paperwork done to flip that switch.
Getting it to the point where you could flip the switch was effort,
exactly
right. But we definitely had it working. And by had it working, because I don't want this to get taken out of context. Had it working, I mean, we could contact the other, communicate with the other systems. We could play, but there are a lot of bugs that you have to like really nail down when you're dealing with stuff like that. There is the other aspect, like you said, paperwork. I don't know anything about that. I know it's not as simple as like we will just flick the switch and everybody will be happy. There's like steps to get to the point where they go, okay, you're allowed to do that, I'm sure. We finally got it to the point where we were happy with how it worked. People that were involved were like, okay, we'll allow it, or whatever they say. I don't know the words they say. And then we turned it on, and it's definitely benefit the community.
I only play on PlayStation, so everybody that I play with, because I only play with friends, we always play on PlayStation. So
that's why we've never played together. You don't consider me. I see how it goes. I see it. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean you're not on PlayStation. You're playing on PC.
I
right?
have a PlayStation.
Yeah, but you're playing. Your main save is on PC, is it not?
I know.
See, I want to have my main save on PC, but you guys don't import. Don't do cross save.
Trust me. We've heard that one too. We've heard that one too.
I really want to play it on PC, but it's like at the same time, my save on PS5 has the Apocalypse run done, a super memorable hardcore run that we did where everybody was dead at the end except for one guy.
Think about this though. You could play on PC, and then you could say one thing that you don't like, and now you can leave a negative review, and you're like, I played this game 700 hours. I don't know. I'm just messing with you.
No, but so yeah, there's the whole cross save thing or not. But my question is, how does it work with the crossplay? Can you just like seamlessly have PC, PlayStation, and Xbox all in one session? Or is it like...
Well, you definitely can play all three together. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know all of the inner workings.
Yeah.
I know that there's some hoops you have to jump through with I don't know if it's certain overlay or how it works or which thing you're connecting to. But that has always been our goal, to make sure that it can be as seamless as possible with the tools that we're given, with the resources that we're given. Because, the goal is to just let more people play together, right? I know that sounds very marketing-ish or whatever, but I don't have the technical details to break it down. Not really.
So another feature that you guys added along the way was the corrupted weapons. What is your current plans with that? Because we've had a couple of events. I think you've done it twice now. There was like 2 weekends, right, where there was double corrupted stuff. So Me and my friends, I think I've played the entirety of the previous DLC, plus however many hours I put into this one, which at this point will have been like, 6 or 7 hours that we've put into the current DLC. And I was able to make one weapon. One corrupted weapon. So probably like in 20 hours, I was able to get enough shards for one weapon.
We did a patch.
Do you guys have plans for anything like that? Or?
Well, yes, for sure. But we also upped the drop rate recently. I think on Survivor we doubled it, and then we increased it on all the other difficulties except Apocalypse, which is it should be 50% chance to spawn a roaming aberration.
Yeah, I did Apocalypse on the previous DLC, but on this one, because I hadn't played for so long, I was like, let's just do Nightmare. Let's chill. I don't want to go Apocalypse on this one.
But we're keeping an eye on it.
I think we had like one spawn this time around in like 7 hours or whatever. In Nightmare.
What difficulty you play on? Veteran?
Nightmare.
Oh, Nightmare. Okay, so that should be increased. The rate should be increased. We're keeping an eye on it. And there's probably a case in the future where we up it even more. How do I say it? The challenge is if we make it too high on Survivor, it makes Survivor much harder for the average player, right?
Yeah, but
so we may increase it on higher on higher difficulties and potentially drop more corrupted when it happens, and that's something we can easily do. We're definitely aware of it, and we do have more things coming. So.
Even more corrupted weapons, you mean?
Well, that's something that we've talked about. I think there's 11 base weapons that have not been corrupted from the base retail game, and then there's all the DLC weapons. And we thought, that might be something what would we do if we made this one? Like, what if we made, what would we do for corrupted Spore Bloom? Or what would we do for, corrupted Star Killer or whatever, right? And we've thought about that. And we have some ideas. It just depends if the opportunity comes up, right? Because that's a discussion that comes from the bosses and the publisher, right? And then they go, "Hey, we're gonna do a thing. What do you got?" And we go, "Well, this." And they're like, "Let's do it."
So you already have the plans in place to basically implement a bunch of more stuff. You just need the.
We have ideas for them, like rough ideas. Like when we look at something like. We did Corrupted Rune Pistol, where we're like, well, what if we made this one about damage instead of healing? Oh, okay, cool. What about Corrupted Cube Gun? What if it actually shot lots of cubes? And we're like, oh, okay, cool. What if its mod just put you in a cube? And we're like, oh, that's pretty cool. We just start coming up with weird ideas like that. So we have a few ideas written for some of these concepts where we're like, okay, what if this one, which shoots a big black hole, shot bunches of little black holes, or did this, or had something to do with you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's at that level. It's not like implement. It's not even work in progress. But we have those ideas ready if the call comes.
So you guys released Forgotten Kingdom. I basically was stuck in a precarious position where I was like, okay, I was trying to work on Final Fantasy 16 to get to those DLCs because I'm replaying
Gotcha.
Final Fantasy 16 in Final Fantasy mode, and I was like, okay, I can either do this or I can go play the new DLC for Remnant 2, which was my personal game of the year last year. So I'm going to go play Remnant 2 DLC.
Nice. I appreciate it.
So like on the 23rd, I was like, hey, let's go. Let's boot it up. I go in, I started playing Forgotten Kingdom. And I think you even jumped in the stream, I think the day after, and you were asking me what I thought about it. Is there anything in particular that you wanted to know from the experience? Because you're like, oh, I got to talk to you about it. Like what's...
No, I just want, I always like to know how people respond, react, to the stuff that we work on, what they really liked, what they didn't like, right?
So
it's helpful
I
to
do,
us, especially people that are level-headed.
Yeah, I do have one thing that I would definitely bring up straight up first thing, which is the new archetype, Invoker.
Okay. Yep.
How you unlock it, I didn't like it. So
Gotcha.
in the case of like the Ritualist, if I remember correctly, and by the way, guys, for anyone watching, I'm not going to care about spoilers at this point. So if you're concerned about spoilers for Forgotten King DLC, you might want to check out for the rest of the podcast or whatever. But like if spoilers come up, it might just happen. But like with the Ritualist, I remember you just explore the whole map and eventually I think you ran into a cave or whatever. And in my first run of that DLC, I actually missed that cave. But I would have gotten there because I wanted to explore the whole map. So eventually I would have gotten the Ritualist 100%. Yeah. There's no chance I wouldn't have gotten that.
Yeah,
it
was a freebie for sure. We definitely made it.
That one was a freebie. Whereas this one, I would have never, and I mean never, gotten this one accidentally. It would have never happened. So if a friend of mine actually showed me yesterday, because even after your tweet, because I saw in your tweet you said, oh, if you found this area with moving sands or whatnot, don't be scared to stand on it for a little bit. And that's what I was going to do. I was like, oh, I'm going to go to, I know exactly which area he's talking about. I'm going to go there and I'm going to start doing the thing. But to me, it's like my feedback to that would be, for starters, that seems like an area that you don't want to be in because there's constantly arrows shooting at you. So you kind of want to rush through it. And then you're supposed to sit there in a very specific spot because it can't be anywhere, right? It has to be like on one of the corners.
It has to be where the sand is bubbling. So you have to be between the sand where it bubbles.
But there's like, if I remember correctly, there's like 2 or 3 bubbles on one side. Then there's 2 or 3 more bubbles in another side.
So the way it works,
there's like a bunch of different bubbles in there.
There are broken darts, which coincide with the bubbles on the ground. So like if you walk through, there's 2 darts, 2 darts, 2 darts, 1 dart. And then on this side, it's like 2 dart, 2 dart, or 2 dart, 1. So the darts are broken where you're supposed to stand, and they line up to where the bubbles are. Now, it was very tricky, and moving a pixel stops you from falling. There are a lot of elements there, but it was kind of an experiment in a way to say, how observant are you, right? How patient are you? Because everybody wants this wasn't intentionally done to be like, oh, be patient. But it was a thing where it's like, it's in the room that the armor is in. It's very specifically in the room that
that's where you loot the armor? I don't remember.
The armor is like 5 feet away. The armor is 5 feet away.
It's the item where you... Because you go through the thing
across.
And...
Yeah. So the darts are, like I said, they're broken where they coincide where you're supposed to stand. So we felt that was enough to give people a hint. We could have made the drop faster. We could have made it so if you moved a little bit, it didn't reset it. There's a lot of little things we could have done there. But we were happy that people did find it after. It took them 8 hours or so for the first person to find it. And then it's one of those cases where, because it was very specific in how to find it, like finding engineer in the fog, right?
Yeah, that's
some people didn't like it. Some people didn't like it.
Yeah, I never would have gotten that one. That one straight up. A friend of mine took me there, and we went there, and because I have this friend of mine that looks up a bunch of stuff eventually once they're done with their first run.
Yeah,
and so that friend of mine just like literally took me out there, and we went and got it. I would have never gotten engineer any other way. It was
another thing is you can also, unless I'm mistaken, you can also I could be mistaken, but I believe you can use the Explorer Treasure Hunter.
Yeah.
And
That's how you do it.
The map.
You use the
well,
thing,
that's for the engineer. I think you can also do it for the thing below.
Oh,
I don't remember exactly.
I could
be wrong. Yeah.
Yeah,
but anyway, it was very stringent. It was meant to be harder. Maybe we made it a little hard, and there are things we can still tune to make it a little bit easier. But
by the way, I don't want to. With this, I don't want to like influence the design. I'm just giving you my feedback.
Oh no! I mean, we've heard that feedback from other people as well. Yeah. Absolutely.
But I'm not saying like that you're wrong for designing it like that.
I got you.
I'm just saying that like I personally was not super happy about it, and I would have never found it. And you were saying that like, oh, we broke one of the arrow shooting things. I was like, I never even noticed that. I just see there's arrows coming at me. I'm going.
I know,
full
and they're
sprint.
one-shotting you. No, I totally get it. I totally get it.
Especially if you're in a harder difficulty, those things will probably just straight up murder you.
Oh yeah. And I'll tell you, like, we trust in the intelligence of the community as a whole.
Yeah.
Right. To eventually figure these things out. The only thing that has ever actually needed true cheating is Archon, but that was designed to require cheating. It was absolutely designed to, you broke the game and then you release that information to the public, and then once they had that information, cool.
They can go.
All of the other stuff is meant to be.
Did you nudge anyone, by the way, in like the right direction to kind of like find that?
No, in fact, when I found out that one of our super testers got about a third of the way close, I made it harder. I was like, oh no. So
you're getting too close to the truth.
Oh yeah. They had a very good idea of like, oh, I think I need to be Ford. I don't know what I don't know what that means, but I think I need to be Ford, and maybe I got to dress like him. And I was like, that's totally not it. That's definitely not it. Let me hold on a second. You know what I mean?
Make this harder. Dial the knobs.
I asked him, how would you know? You know, but yeah, it's. But again, in the grand scheme of things, we very much trust the community to come together. That's why we did the treasure hunt for the polygon, where some people hated it. They're like, why did somebody on YouTube was like, they think they're artists and it's all for ego because they're making these. They think they're making these genius
they think
puzzles.
They're artists? They are artists. Like, well,
I don't know. It was just a funny comment where the guy's like, he's probably in his bedroom or wherever tipping his fedora, and I'm like, dude, the polygon is just a treasure hunt. You see it shiny, you find the next shiny. It's not meant to be.
So I've seen like a couple of your posts on the polygon. I don't know if you want to spoil anything of that, because you were even saying that now people need to figure out how to use the gun, because like
they figured it out pretty quick. They figured it out pretty quick.
But it's like, what was the deal with the polygon? Because I haven't actually seen anything about that.
Well,
did you guys hide it in the labyrinth?
For anybody watching, it is in the labyrinth. You don't need the DLC for it, and really, it's just a treasure hunt.
So
you go into the lab, and the first world stone is there in that big square room where the giant gate is. And if you look into the right, there's a broken door right on the ground floor, and there's a shiny, and you just shoot it. And then you have to find all the rest of the shinies in the lab. It's just a breadcrumb treasure hunt. That's it.
Interesting.
And so the idea was it was meant to be tricky enough to require the community to go, well, we found one. Where's the next one? Oh, we're on two. And that's what happened. It took them 28 hours. And we were like, oh, it took them 28 hours to just find shiny things. And it was a bunch of people working together in a Discord, chatting.
How did people even come up with that? Because like, why would people be in the labyrinth to begin with? Because the DLC doesn't require you to go to the labyrinth.
It doesn't.
I'm assuming this was added with the DLC, right?
It was added with the DLC, but you do not need the DLC. You don't need the DLC to get it. And it's just part of our concept of adding new content to old content, right? Adding stuff to new content. We always add 2 rings and an amulet to every other biome. We added another hat or 2 to like Fae. Like if you go and you shoot, the preacher in the first DLC, if you go shoot his hat, you can take his hat now. You can just get his top hat. It's called the Dandy Topper, and it's a must-have for this year's fashion accessory. So we just try to add little things here and there where we can. If the time and the resources allow it, we're going to try to add more stuff. And we added a whole gun this time.
Interesting.
Which is one of the biggest investments we can make.
I can imagine.
On a single item.
So and it was our most complicated gun. So that was kind of the concept.
I need to look that up because I would never figure that stuff out. I'm curious, like, how do you feel about how long it took people to find, for instance, the Invoker? Because obviously the polygon is more of like a puzzle, a meta thing, but like the Invoker is kind of like a selling feature of your DLC because it's a brand new archetype. So how do you feel about how hard it was for people to find it? And do you think that you're going to keep doing it on that level of mystery?
No, I think it's different each time. I think it was easy in DLC 1. It was hard in DLC 2. It's probably the third or fourth hardest to find. I think it's just part of the unique nature of getting everything in Remnant, right? Like getting Archon is mad hard, Invader is pretty hard, Engineer is hard, Archon is pretty hard, and we'll look and see. Like I said, we'll always look and see if we can do things better each time. But every time we do something that's a little out of the norm, it's also an experiment, right? Where we go,
see, that's the advantage that we're talking about in AA, because you can be like, we're going to put this out there, and it's a key thing to our expansion, and some people probably will never find it.
And one thing I'll say, I got to go pretty soon, but one thing I'll say is that data mining, I've said this to a few other people, data mining I love it in other games. Because I love, when I played WoW, I want to know what my armor is going to look like for Gladiator Season 14. I want to know what my raid armor is going to look like. All this stuff. And I get it. And we knew it was going to happen in Remnant 2, because it happened in Remnant 1. The only problem that I have with it in Remnant 2 is when people release entire lists of things that are in the game, and they put them up without any info how to get it. Because what that does is it creates a list for like one of your friends that looks up stuff. Hey, there's this new gun, but I don't know how to get it. There's this new archetype, but I don't know how to get it. I'm annoyed that I can't have, I'm not saying your friend gets annoyed, but people go, I'm annoyed that I can't have this right now. It makes the game feel smaller when you release the list of everything in the item, right? Or in the game, right? But there's also benefits to it. Like the Archon thing was really fun, and somebody cheated, and it was this concept of somebody cheated and hacked the code, and they spread the information out to everybody like a virus, like the root kind of thing. So I don't remember what the initial topic was there, but we want things to be hard. Oh, and we want that sense of wonder. So if you don't, here's the thing: if you don't look up stuff,
I never do.
There's a million. The game feels much bigger than it is.
Yep.
Right. The game feels huge because you're like, I've gone through Fey biome 5 times and I've never seen that ring. I've never seen that injectable. I've never seen that boss. You've probably seen the bosses, but you know what I mean. I've never seen that aberration because you don't know the rules of the game. You don't know how much we've added, right? And there could be a secret where we're like, whoa, I brought these 3 pieces of something to this guy this time. Last time I backstabbed him, or this time he backstabbed me, or this time I gave it to him, and then I brought it to this other guy. Wow, I didn't know that was there. And so if you play it like that, the game's gonna last even longer for you. Or for some people, it won't last long at all because they're like, I can never find anything in this game. It goes both ways. You know what I mean? But we're always gonna try to mix things up. That's really the concept. Sense of wonder, cool exploration, adventure, and hopefully combat that people enjoy.
So one of the things that I still need to bring up, and I know that you got to go soon, but it's like, this is just, I know you're not going to do anything about it right now. Inventory management. We need like tabs that we can organize rings in, please, something. Just let us organize them. Like, just give us, here's 5 tabs, and you can change where you put each ring. And game changer.
Oh no, trust me. We've heard the feedback since the beginning. It's just a matter of time and resources and other things that we have to get done before we do that sort of stuff. But we definitely are aware.
Do you have anything planned or nothing yet that you can talk about?
We've looked into it
for the rings.
And I think we're assessing the amount of work that it'll take to add that now after the fact.
Okay.
I can't promise anything because, like I said, it's just people looking into that kind of thing.
Because
just like for a while, people were looking into crossplay. For a while, people were looking into XYZ.
It's just the reason I bring it up is naturally because the way that I've played Remnant 2, right? It was like God knows how many extreme amounts of hours at the beginning. Then you take a break. Then first DLC rolls around. Then a bunch of more hours during that. Then I take a break. And then this time I jump back in. And I was like, okay, I don't remember which build I was running.
Oh, I know. Trust me.
And then I look at the rings and I was like, oh
yeah,
damn.
There's 175 of them. Trust me. Trust me, I know, and we know, and it's something that we have looked into. There's no promises, but it's also, I can say we're looking into it.
Yeah.
Instead of there's no chance. I can just say we're looking into it. I don't want to promise anything to anybody other than we're going to keep trying to benefit the players as many ways as we want. That's a very publishery marketing thing, but more than one person has looked into it. I'll tell you that. Right.
Okay.
So we'll see. Right.
Final.
But we played the game too. And sometimes as the guy that is kind of in charge of making sure that all the rings and trinkets get made, I'll look at a ring and go, oh, I didn't know we had that. That would have been nice in this build that I made. Damn it. I get it. And it's also funny, like, I made a joke post on Twitter where it was like, we asked players what they wanted most, and they said loadouts. So we gave them loadouts, and then we asked players what they wanted, and they said more loadouts, which is fun. But there's always going to be something, and I don't mean that in any kind of disrespectful way. There will always be something that players will want for the game. Be it more 100%. Loadouts, be it a search, which we're aware of. I want to keep reiterating that. Be it cross save, be it any of those things. So,
So, final question. I'll let you go. I'm sorry to take so much of your time, but
it's your fault. But that's how it goes.
Fair enough.
It's all good. It's not like we had a patch just launched an hour ago.
Yeah.
No, it's all good.
Have you ever considered letting us repeat the one-shot adventure?
That would probably be a better question for Dave Adams. We have talked about allowing players to roll the story that they want. So it may not be one shot, but like imagine going to adventure mode and saying, I'm going to pick the Awakened King. And you just play that. It's not a one shot, but it is the Awakened King biome and you're going to, or I'm going to pick the Ravager storyline instead of just, because right now it's just it would be a quality of life thing because you can just sit there and re-roll until you get the Awakened King first. Yeah. So we've talked about like, well, why don't we just let them do that? And we're like,
the thing for me specifically was, so you know how this time around to get like the alternate thing with the boss, you need to take like the item and take it to one of the injectable things that doesn't always spawn. Oh yeah. And with the one-shot adventure, you could have that every time. Yep. And whereas right now I'm like re-rolling, the problem is I don't know if it's going to spawn. I have to run through the whole thing.
I got you. And that's how the base game works, right? Like in the base game, when we had 2 biomes, there are things where you have to get them in a certain order. Like in Narud, to get the gun, you have to roll the train and you have to roll one of the other dungeons. Otherwise, it just won't work. Putting in new stuff like that into one shot or into the new content means that in the one shot, you're going to get it. And if you don't get the one shot, it's like the regular game. So, I mean, it is one of those things we've talked about. We talked about doing like a middle ground where you can always roll the zone or the biome that you want first. So we've talked about that. So again, if players have a general concern or request, us as players who've played thousands of hours of the game probably also agree with you. Yeah. We probably agree with. There's almost always a time where we go, yeah, I can see that. They're not wrong. They're not wrong. You know what I mean? Like we get you because there are still people on our team that play the game every day and they're always looking to make the game better. They'll message me. I'll message Dave Adams. Dave will say, oh, we could think about that. I'm like, best I can do for now. I can't really tell you specifics either way, other than if you know, most of the time we know and we'll do our best. You know what I mean?
Okay. I'm going to let you have the final word. Any message they want to send out to Remnant 2 players?
Nothing crazy. Just that, I mean, it ties into what we were just talking about. We know what players are asking for. We have a lot of really interesting things planned that we think people will enjoy that are, outside of just DLC. We want to keep making the game better. We obviously have another DLC coming, but we have more coming than just that. And obviously, swing by and give us your feedback. It doesn't always have to be positive feedback, but make it constructive. Because you can say, this is garbage. I'm like, okay, but you've told me nothing that, aside from a more aggressive way to say I don't like it. But if you say, I don't like this because it's weak compared to XYZ, I wish it was this, I'm like, you actually gave me 5 things to think about. And maybe that generates 15 things for me to think about. So always give us your feedback. Just keep it constructive, and we're going to keep doing our best for you guys.
I think you should increase the AoE radius of corrupted Meridian by like 100%. What you think about that?
All right, this interview is over. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
Hey, marketing answer. We've heard you. We've heard you on that one.
Okay, well, Ben, thank you very much for your time. If you guys enjoyed this episode of Cast, hit the like button, subscribe bell, notification icon, all of that jazz, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.